Hello, Shrunkle Spurt here, and today we're checking out the Honor Magic 7 Lite. A more affordable mid-range mobile if you can't quite stretch up to the Magic 7 or Magic 7 Pro. But can it compete with the very best mid-rangers out there, the OnePlus Nords, the Pixel 8As, etc.? Well, let's whip the Honor Magic 7 Lite on out of its box, test out the gaming chops, the camera tech, all that good stuff, and for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! So what do you get chucked in the box besides, of course, the Honor Magic 7 Lite? Well, in my box, I've got a USB Type-A to Type-C charging cable and a pokey SIM tray pin thing, and that's it. It's a very skinny box, so as you can see, bugger all else in there. So yeah, if you stump up for an Honor Magic 7 Lite, you'll have to recycle your old power adapter. No condom case chucked in the box either, which is a bit of a shame. Now, the Honor Magic 7 Lite sports quite a typical design for a modern mid-ranger. Unsurprisingly, it is a proper hand filler at 6.78 inches, but despite that whopping great screen, it's reasonably skinny, quite comfortable to clutch, and lighter than you would probably expect. Not everyone will be a fan of the screen which curves at the very edges there. A lot of people prefer a flat display these days, but at least the bezels surrounding that screen are pretty skinny. Of course, some of that gorgeous screen is obscured up near the top end by a double selfie cam orifice. Not quite as bad as that iPhone floating turd, it's more of a turdette. And it is an exceedingly thin frame that separates the front glass from the back end of the Honor Magic 7 Lite, sadly constructed from plastic, no metal here. As you can see, coloured the same as the back end to blend in. And this right here is the titanium purple model, but you can also grab the Magic 7 Lite in titanium black if you want something a bit less vibrant, otherwise also jade cyan. Pretty sure jade and cyan are two completely different colours, but I don't know, maybe it's a blend or something. I quite like this purple model, probably my favourite of the three colours. As for the design itself, it's pretty straightforward, simple and smart. You've got a bloody big camera bump, of course, as is basically the norm these days. Doesn't protrude too far from that arse end, and as you can see there, you've got a bit of etched border action, if you're into all that. And despite the matte finish to the back end of the Honor Magic 7 Lite, it still seems to pick up greasy, grubby marks fairly easily. Just a light bit of fingering is apparently all it takes. You'll have to give it plenty of buffing up, keep it looking box fresh. Now apparently you've got an anti-shatter display up front, so hopefully it won't splinter into bits if you fumble this thing after too many TVRs. That's Tequila Vodka Red Bull, one of my all-time favourite cocktails. Great stuff if you want to get obliterated on a budget. Honor reckons this thing can survive drops of up to 2 meters now, which I'm not going to test because I have to give this thing back. You've actually got a pre-installed screen protector slapped on there for extra protection. And as for the water and dust resistance, well, the Magic 7 Lite is IP64 rated, so a slight upgrade over the previous generation. Means it can certainly take a heavy splash and can get rather moist, but also Honor reckons this thing can survive a full minute or so submerged in water. Again, not going to test that because I have to pay if I break it. And apparently this phone can survive temperatures scaling all the way down to minus 30 degrees and all the way up to 55 degrees. So basically, you'll be dead before your bloody phone. So if all of this is true, then the Honor Magic 7 Lite is a proper double hard bastard. On the Statham scale, it certainly deserves at least a 4, possibly a 4.5. Now to unlock the Honor Magic 7 Lite, you'd have an in-display fingerprint sensor squished all the way at the bottom here, so it's a little bit of a stretch, but nothing too horrific. And it is of course just your basic optical sensor. As you can see, pretty fast to react. I've had very little jip from this thing. Just gets a bit tetchy if your hands are wet or whatever. And of course you've got face unlock as a backup as well, just in case. Sadly, despite a couple of very recent updates, the Honor Magic 7 Lite is still stuck on old Android 14 and macOS version 8.0. Of course, the likes of the Magic 7 Pro come with Android 15 and macOS 9 stuffed on there straight out of the box, so hopefully the Lite will get an upgrade to that soon. And while Honor hasn't specifically mentioned how many OS updates, etc. you can expect, I reckon probably only a couple. And then hopefully at least 3 or 4 years of security patching, although those will most likely be quarterly. In better news, you thankfully, mercifully, get very little crapware stuffed on the Magic 7 Lite. So there's no Facebook, no LinkedIn, no booking.bloody.com, although you do get Honor's own app market on there. and a few of its other bits like its own video player, themes, weather, etc. In some ways, macOS not too dissimilar from a lot of other Chinese launchers. You do have quite a lot of the Android staples like the Google Discover feed, the good old apps tray, though you do have to enable that in the settings. And you can drag down that notifications bar and also swipe across to the old control center, which has all your toggles. And certainly a lot easier to swipe from the notification center to the control center. I always struggle to get it back the other way. As always, customization is king, so you can quickly switch up the fonts, the icons, absolutely ruddy loads of different themes you can download. And of course, a variety of always on display options. And some extra bonus bits, the likes of the gaming mode, for instance, which we'll check out later. Although sadly, at the time I shot this video, still no Gemini, of course, no circle to search support or any of the usual AI shenanigans. And of course, you've got Honor's usual magic capsule shenanigans. So for instance, if you're streaming some music in your app of choice, the wee turdette up there will expand slightly, showing you a bit of cover art, show that the media is playing. And if you give that a wee tap, you can skip a track, you can pause the music, get a bit of shuffle action on the go. And the Honor Magic 7 Lite comes with 256 gigs of storage as standard, pretty generous, though this model right here has 512 gigs, half a terabyte, which is more than a lot of flagships I've recently reviewed. Sadly not expandable via micro SD memory cards. You do have full support for either 2 physical SIM cards, otherwise you can also get a bit of eSIM action on the go instead of that second physical SIM. It's very handy if you like to do a bit of traveling and your current mobile provider has a roaming scheme that is frankly pants. As for the Honor Magic 7 Lite's 6.78-inch AMOLED panel, well, this is similar to last year's display, but a wee bit brighter now, so even more comfortable for outdoors use, certainly if you live somewhere that's actually sunny. Not just endless murk like the good old UK in January. It might be a big bugger, but this display's 2700 by 1224 pixel resolution keeps the visuals nice and crisp. There's no HDR capabilities supported in the likes of Netflix, but the contrast still eye-pleasingly natural. The refresh rate maxes out at 120 Hz, although zipping around the UI and everything doesn't look quite as smooth as some rivals. And you got 3840 Hz PWM dimming, so great news if you are a bit more sensitive to OLED panels when you're doing a bit of browsing or whatever in the evenings. And as for the audio, well, you do get a stereo speaker setup here on the Magic 7 Lite. Got a speaker up on the top edge here as well as the bottom edge of the phone. And that audio output's pretty decent. Let's max out the volume. It's now 300% high volume mode, because that's obviously physically possible. I don't really like other people very much. Hey, me neither. And that's why I prefer to throw back half a crate of beer, lock myself away in a room with not too many fragile objects, and flail about the place with the latest and greatest single-player MetaQuest 3 and MetaQuest 3S VR games. So this skinny wee bugger can pump out some pretty loud audio when you max out that volume, but the clarity doesn't take too much of a hit. I certainly wouldn't listen to music using the built-in speakers. I'd get a bit of Bluetooth action on the go, but for just kicking back with videos, storing some bald dickhead, absolutely fine. Unfortunately, when it comes to the performance, no upgrade for the Magic 7 Lite versus the previous generation. You've once again got Qualcomm's Snapdragon 6 Gen 1 stuffed in there. That's backed by 8 gigs of RAM, and thankfully the everyday run-in is absolutely fine, if not exactly buttery smooth. Yeah, apps load up reasonably quick. You'll only see the occasional wee judder in there. It's nothing too horrific at all. The only time I really noticed a lot of slowdown was in the camera app. If you're trying to take lots of shots in quick succession, for instance, you'll be hanging around waiting for the phone to catch up with the processing. And yeah, if you are a gamer, well, you'll probably want to look to an alternative option if you want to play the likes of Genshin Impact or Wuthering Waves, for instance, but the Magic 7 Lite can happily cope with a bit of PUBG, Call of Duty, scalable games which are well optimized like that. I certainly found it was responsive enough for a good bit of Call of Duty action. Didn't completely embarrass myself against the legions of 7-year-olds on their bloody school holidays. And as I alluded to earlier, you do have that gaming mode built into macOS with a small selection of pretty decent features. Got the usual game and performance modes, do not disturb type shenanigans, bit of rotation lock. You can record the action or just take screenshots, etc. But one area that Honor has upgraded for the Magic 7 Lite is the battery tech, because now you've got an almighty whopping great 6,600 mAh capacity cell somehow squeezed into that very skinny chassis. And that's a big old upgrade over the 5,300 mAh capacity battery from the previous gen. So yeah, all day battery life absolutely not a concern whatsoever, even with hours and hours and hours of screen on time here. And mercifully, the Honor Magic 7 Lite doesn't take all day to recharge either, because you do have 66 watt wired charging support, same as the old Magic 6 Lite, but once again, bugger all wireless charging support. So last up for this lovely wee Honor Magic 7 Lite unboxing and tour, let's have a squint at that camera tech. And it is once again a very similar setup to the Magic 6 Lite. So you've got yourself a 108 megapixel primary shooter backed by a rather basic 5 megapixel ultra wide angle snapper. And that is your lot, even though it does look like there are more lenses slapped into that enormous camera bump. And it's the same on a camera app as always. As usual, you've got the highlight capture option, which can take photos on your behalf when it detects smiling or action in general, but it's no substitute for just tapping the shutter button yourself. And of course, you've got the usual selection of camera modes, including a good bit of portrait action with adjustable bokeh. Yourself a dedicated night mode, and plenty more shenanigans, including a proper full-on pro mode. If you want to mess around with the likes of the EV levels, the shutter speed, the ISO levels. And here's just a small selection of sample photos I snapped on the Honor Magic 7 Lite in my first 24 hours with the phone. Some of my portrait shots came out pretty nicely, even if skin tones aren't exactly 100% accurate. The Magic 7 Lite is certainly respectable in HDR type situations, and that night mode helps out when the lighting is really low. Seems like a respectable enough effort. Basically, just don't expect the moon on a stick and you'll hopefully be satisfied. When it comes to your home movies, well, you can shoot video at up to 4K resolution, although only at 30 frames per second, 60 FPS not available at Ultra HD. And again, here's some simple clips I recorded this past day with the Honor Magic 7 Lite. Visuals reasonably crisp as long as the lighting's alright at that 4K level. The stabilization could certainly use some improvement, and the audio pickup gets absolutely balked if there's any kind of gusty wind action.
Yeah. So you should have 10 minutes of video at 4K resolutions at 30 frames per second.
And then last up, you've got a 16 megapixel selfie cam housed in that wee turdette up top there. And this can't record 4K resolution video. You do max out at full HD, sadly. And hey, just in case you were missing it, here's my face some more. Hooray. And there you have it, my lovelies. That in a tasty wee nutshell is the fresh new Honor Magic 7 Lite. A mid-range mobile that certainly boasts some pretty impressive battery tech. Not only is it freaking massive, but it charges up pretty nipply as well compared with some of the competition from the likes of Samsung and Google. Of course, on the software side, it is a real shame that it's old Android and this blower won't be updated as reliably and regularly as some of its rivals. And likewise, the performance is certainly beaten by a lot of the competition, so if you are a gamer, you'll probably want to look at some of them instead. Anyhow, that's what this hairless northern twonk reckons. Be great to hear your thoughts on the Honor Magic 7 Lite down below. Please do poke, subscribe and ding that notifications bell for plenty more tech in 2025. This is only just the beginning, believe me. In the meantime, have yourselves a ruddy, wonderful rest of the week. Cheers everyone, love you.